The Newsday continues here in One News Now. I'm Jago Castro, bringing you the biggest headlines from around the world. Sudan's military demands the surrender of its rival paramilitary force on Thursday after a 24-hour ceasefire ran out. The Sudanese military said it has ruled out negotiations with the Rapid Support Forces. The army said it was now only open to discussing the terms of their rival's surrender. The military statement raised the likelihood of a renewed surge in the nearly week-long violence that has so far killed 330 people. To mark the Muslim holiday of Eid al-Fitr, the UN appealed for a 3-day ceasefire.
I appeal for a ceasefire to take place for at least 3 days, marking the Eid al-Fitr celebrations, to allow civilians trapped in conflict zones to escape and to seek medical treatment, food, and other essential supplies. This must be the first step in providing respite from the fighting and paving the way for a permanent ceasefire.
Ukraine's future lies in NATO. This was declared by the Western Military Alliance's chief, Jens Stoltenberg, during his first visit to Ukraine since Russia's invasion 14 months ago. During a press conference with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, Stoltenberg pledged more support for the war-torn country as he declares that Ukraine's rightful place is in NATO. Stoltenberg's visit was likely to irk the Kremlin, which said earlier on Thursday that one of the main goals of its quote special military operation in Ukraine was to prevent it from joining what Moscow regards as a hostile bloc. Ukraine announced a bid for fast-track membership of NATO last September, after the Kremlin said it had annexed 4 Ukrainian regions that its troops had partially occupied.
I also recognize that President Zelensky will raise the issue of membership of security guarantees, and this will be high on the agenda of the meeting and also in the lead-up and the preparations for the Vilnius summit. Ukraine's future is in the Euro-Atlantic family. Ukraine's future is in NATO. All allies agree on that.
We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now World. I'm Diego Castro. French President Emmanuel Macron spoke with his U.S. counterpart Joe Biden on Thursday. However, the two leaders offered differing statements over the tension in Taiwan. A readout from the French presidency made no direct mention of Taiwan, merely saying that both sides desire to, quote, support international law, including freedom of navigation throughout the Indo-Pacific region. Meanwhile, the White House statement was in stark contrast. It said they, quote, had reaffirmed the importance of maintaining peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait. Recall that in an interview with the media earlier this month, Macron called for the European Union to reduce its dependence on the US. He also cautioned against being drawn into a crisis over Taiwan, driven by, quote, American rhythm and a Chinese overreaction. During their talk, Macron also briefed Biden about his visit to Beijing. Uganda's president sent an anti-LGBTQ bill back to parliament to strengthen some of its provisions. Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni says that while he supports the bill, he wanted lawmakers to reinforce some of its provisions. The president, however, did not specify which parts of the legislation needed to be strengthened. The US, UN, and European Union, along with the corporate giants, have condemned the bill, containing some of the world's harshest anti-LGBTQ legislation. The bill would impose 20-year sentences for promoting homosexuality. The bill also imposes the death penalty for so-called aggravated homosexuality, which include offenses like having intercourse when HIV positive. SpaceX Starship exploded mid-air shortly after it launched in Texas. The uncrewed rocket disintegrated 4 minutes after successfully blasting off on Thursday. The flight test was the first for Starship mounted atop the company's new Super Heavy rocket. It was also the first launch ever for that lower stage booster, which is deemed the most powerful launch vehicle, despite the failure to complete the full 90-minute flight test. SpaceX founder Elon Musk declared it a success. On Twitter, Musk said they, quote, learned a lot for the next launch in a few months. Reuters reports that criminal charges against Alec Baldwin have been dropped. These charges are over the fatal shooting of cinematographer Halyana Hutchins during the filming of the Western movie Rust. Citing a source familiar with the matter, Reuters says prosecutors have dropped the charges after new evidence showed that the handgun which the actor was holding that fired a live round had been modified according to the source. The evidence showed the Colt 45 revolver Baldwin was rehearsing with had been modified since it was manufactured, and prosecutors could no longer prove it would not fire without the trigger being pulled. Meanwhile, filming of Rust resumes at a movie ranch in Montana, 18 months after the shooting incident. Moonbin death. The death of Moonbin, fans are mourning. A singer from South Korean boy band Astro who was found dead at his home in Seoul. The 25-year-old was reportedly found by his manager, who went to the singer's home Wednesday evening because he wasn't responding to contact. South Korea's Yonhap news agency reports that police are investigating his death but have so far found no signs of foul play. Moonbin's management agency Fantagio said in a statement that fellow artists and company officials are mourning him with, quote, very deep sadness and shock. Fantagio said Moonbin's funeral will be held as quietly as possible, with attendance mostly limited to family, close friends, and colleagues. Moonbin debuted in 2016 with a 6-member boy band Astro, which was launched shortly after the singers appeared in a TV reality show. And those are the top world headlines of the hour. Join us again at 9 a.m. as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. Coming right up is Agenda at 8 a.m. I'm Diego Castro. We are One News, all sides, all the time.